Hello. Documentary sources for Britain in the 5th and 6th centuries, the post-Roman period, are fragmentary and hard to authenticate or corroborate. Fertile ground then for myth and legend. Most potent are those surrounding King Arthur and the associated characters from his fabled court, the inspiration for writers, poets, composers and artists since the Middle Ages, which is when the well-known stories of the Knights of the Round Table and the quest for the Holy Grail first appear. The Arthur of popular culture has his origins in the work of Chrétien de Troyes, a French poet writing in the 12th century. Several important characters, Lancelot as an example, make their first appearance in his work, as does the pursuit of the Holy Grail, which in Chrétien's telling is the chalice used at the Last Supper. Chrétien's stories were widely copied and embellished by others. Archaeology continues to illuminate what were once termed the Dark Ages. What can an interrogation of the myths add? To what extent are the early tales rooted in folk memories and oral traditions with some basis in fact? In this series we explore the sources, review what archaeology has added to our knowledge of the period, and examine the myths and their origins for clues and for the insight they provide into the mindset and preoccupations of the different ages in which they appeared. In the Victorian period, the legend of King Arthur, along with all things medieval, enjoyed a huge revival. The Pre-Raphaelite artists and their followers produced several romantic medieval set interpretations based on the corpus of Arthurian tales. This is one of a set of 6 tapestries, based on the quest for the Holy Grail, originally commissioned for Stanmore Hall in Shropshire and now in Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery, designed by Edward Burne-Jones and woven by William Morris and Company in 1890. This painting, The Last Sleep of Arthur in Avalon by Edward Burne-Jones, was completed in 1898. A monumental canvas, 9 feet 2 inches by 25 feet 6 inches, and originally commissioned by Burne-Jones' friend George Howard, Earl of Carlisle, for Naworth Castle in Cumbria. It is now in the Ponce Museum, Puerto Rico, although it did come back to England for a season at Tate Britain in 2009. Fundamental to the Arthurian legend is the belief that Arthur doesn't die. He simply sleeps to return when he is needed. This is the central detail. It has been claimed that the figure of Arthur is based on Burne-Jones' longtime friend William Morris, who had died in 1896. I agree with those who think it more autobiographical, and that this is Burne-Jones contemplating his own mortality. Letters written from his studio at the time he was working on this painting are headed Avalon, the island where a wounded Arthur is supposedly taken after his last battle. There is an overall impression of serenity in this painting, a sense of quietude, of a moment frozen in time. The figure of Arthur is centre stage, brought to Avalon by his half-sister Morgan Le Fay, an ambiguous figure in the legends who cradles his head in her lap. The Pre-Raphaelite obsession with truth to nature is evident in the summer flowers that fill the foreground. In 19th century Britain, Arthur was consistently presented as an ideal chivalrous hero, exemplified in Burne-Jones' painting and in Tennyson's Idylls of the King, a cycle of 12 blank verse poems published between 1859 and 1885, largely based on Thomas Malory's 15th century Morte d'Arthur. This illustration is by Gustave Doré. With The Last Sleep of Arthur in Avalon, Burne-Jones makes a critical comment on Victorian society and expresses his disenchantment with the way life now was compared with how it should be lived. Tennyson's and Burne-Jones's depictions are a window into a recent and well-documented age and its values. Earlier works of art and literature will offer us similar insights into the age in which they were created. The conventional history, once commonly accepted as fact, is that when the Roman legions withdrew from Britain around 410, Picts and Irish tribes that had already been mounting coastal raids took advantage of the opportunity to step up their attacks on the former province, and pagan Germanic tribes, Angles, Saxons and Jutes invaded, with the result that Romano-British culture, society and economy soon collapsed, political control fragmenting and devolving to local chieftains. This previously widely held view has been seriously challenged by archaeology, and I shall consider the evidence next time. If you've enjoyed this video, hit the like and subscribe buttons and click on the notification bell to be informed when the next video is available, or you can subscribe by clicking on the rose window over my shoulder.